Hello, everybody. I'm going to give a few minutes because I was late sharing this out and all of that. Hello, Cranky. I wonder what. Tara with Trisha. Hello. CJ. Hold on. Come on. Let me go over and give you a wrench. We're talking about Danny Masterson today. So I'm excited because this is like the first we've had no Saturday legal discussions on my other channel as we moved things over here. And so and then we got a little bit delayed in starting and set my goal for June. And here we are. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's a cool topic that I'm interested in. And I think it'll be interesting for you guys too. There we go, CJ. Hey, Sugar Beet. Hey, Missy. Cranky. Cranky. Wrench too. Hey, Grouchy Mama Bear. Yes, I am very sad, Grouchy Mama Bear, about obviously about where she's at right now, because Danny Masterson, as many know, let me get my banners changed over. And it's going. All right. So most people know Danny Masterson from That 70s Show. And Chrissy B is who was originally referred to as Jane Doe 3. That remained the case through the court proceedings. There's been two, because the first one ended in a mistrial. Sadly, her verdict also, it hasn't been declared that yet. The prosecution can take it back at any time, but it was an 8-4 ruling in favor of his guilt. But of course, they need to have that unanimous decision from the jury. YouTube sensitive on these things, you guys. So we're going to use the R word. I work in legal advocacy for those with intellectual disabilities. So the R word means something different to me. So I actually generally think of it, it's trying to be creative here. Like, how are we going to describe this, right? I think the R word is fine because we all know what we're talking about. But it's forcible penetration is what we're talking about. And they're between the years of 2001 and 2003. So in the height, really, of his time on That 70s Show, there were a total of 5 women who had these allegations. 3 of them ended up being charged finally in 2020. What makes this such an interesting case that'll definitely span, a couple episodes at least, we'll be talking about this, is that Danny grew up in the Church of Scientology. And so the information that's out there and people that understand kind of, some of the trappings of Scientology has grown. It's been a lot more talked about, but it's always been sort of a secretive religion. They're still technically, they are considered a religion by the government. That's a tax status, but nevertheless, legally speaking, they are acknowledged as a religion. Hold on one second here because I want to. Hey, Grouchy Mama Bear. Yes, they're really bad. And that'll be its own whole show, you guys. So throughout the week, there won't be a hard and fast rule when it comes to this channel, but every Saturday at least is going to be a live stream. It's where people can interact and ask questions, and I'll put links for people to come up on panel and just talk. Everyone, generally knows about this from my other channel, so we're not doing any drama here. So that's going to keep that over there. But this is more where we can just come and talk about legal stuff. If I'm ever going to change what we're talking about, it'll generally kick off on a day, on a Saturday. So that way we all know what's going on, and there'll be a week of, follow up and all of that. And so if ever there's something that's of interest to you guys, just make sure to let me know. Because very secret, yes. Well, and they're big bullies, you know what I mean? But they also have practices and stuff that I feel like, prior to Leah Remini's show, I didn't have a lot of understanding of the Church of Scientology. And the reason why, legally speaking, it mattered so much here, hey Tevi, is because they have, now this is according to the prosecution, and there is a civil case. And they did release a statement in the wake of his decision. I'm going to change this picture up here because he's now in jail. This is his last breaths of freedom, okay? This is paparazzi pictures as he's heading into court with his wife. The day that he was found guilty. So going into the verdict. Generally speaking, there's a statute of limitations in California. And there was, there's always a defense argument to be had when it's something that dates back, that people's recollects aren't good, things like that. However, the Church of Scientology, according to the victims and according to people who have left Scientology, they aren't to go to outside authorities. Okay. One of the things that's come up in the civil case, which is ongoing, the civil case, which has more or less been on hold because they could not depose Danny Masterson because he had a Fifth Amendment right to not incriminate himself in his criminal case. They have presented documents that prove that part of, joining up and ranking up in Scientology is that you sign an arbitration agreement saying that any disagreements of any kind between you and other Scientologists have to be handled through an arbitration proceeding that is handled by the church. Okay. So no matter what they've said since, there's definitely documented evidence, and it's out there. It's been out there for a few years now. But no, this is part of the deal. This is what they do. And because it's considered a religious freedom, this will be an interesting case. There have been other civil cases against the church. We'll talk about that, but it's definitely sort of a deep dive. You know what I mean? So there's all kinds of little rabbit holes you guys got to keep me from going down because I can definitely go down them because I find the whole entire thing super interesting. So he was charged in 2020 with three of the forcible penetration, R-word kind of situations, right? There were two others, and they are involved in the civil case, and they had some involvement in the criminal case. They weren't allowed much leeway to tell their stories, obviously, because they didn't get the benefit of the trials, and they didn't have the sanctions from the judge to bring that in as character evidence or anything like that. But nevertheless, three. Okay. So they went to trial finally. He's been out on over $3 million bail the whole time. And in late 2022, finally got the trial. That trial ended in all three counts being in a hung jury. Okay. So the prosecution decided they're going to go ahead and retry it. And they did that. Thomas Mesereau has been with him. Most people will remember him. He's a very high profile defense attorney. Most people will remember him though from the Michael Jackson case. There is no better. Okay. There's no better defense attorney that money can buy, in my opinion. He had Church of Scientology, their interactions with the judge were interesting, to say the least. There's a little bit of a controversy that we'll talk about too. All three in my opinion, really proved they proved their case. The difference between the two trials, the marked difference, what's interesting to consider is that the second judge, which is Judge Amato, allowed in more of the Scientology evidence, which sort of chipped away at some of the things that have come out in statements from the first jury that couldn't reach a decision, where the holdouts in that first one really had a lot to do with, why didn't you come out sooner? How come your stories have changed? Things like that. In chat, it was mentioned that somebody interacts with who was Jane Doe number 3. She has been out in the public, you guys. She interviewed with Leah Remini. She was like Chrissy D. So she's out and about. She's doing her thing out there. Which I admire. I want to make this very clear, okay? At the bottom is scrolling there. Numbers, trigger warnings in effect. It usually will be for this show. My first one was a little more lighthearted, but it was still about divorce. You know what I mean? But legal cases often have things that might speak to certain people. It's just letting you know. Resources are down there. Chrissy has been very outspoken with the media. And so a lot of her story is known. They didn't allow video. They didn't allow microphones. So there was no sound. There was no video from the courtroom. Because the retrial immediately the state of California vocalized for sure their intention to retry it. There's not a lot of information that's out there. Now that this is done, I anticipate that things like transcripts and all of that are going to be more readily available, and you're going to see more detailed information coming out. So I kind of look forward to that too, because it's something we can revisit as more information is known. It was in the bit about him. Very interesting too. I keep my eyes on that. So her story is pretty well known because she's done interviews and the like. So this was a long-term girlfriend, 6 years. 6 years she was with him. Now, a couple of these victims, including herself, there was, the allegation. I have to still say when it comes to her, and that breaks my heart, by the way. Breaks my heart. Because I think she had the most. And she has talked about how the church would tell her, because we all know auditing is part of that, which is kind of like counseling, right? If you think about the way that they use that, there's some really sinister things, but the selling point and what the church would tell you, it encapsulates as some sort of self-help counseling with accountability towards your auditor through the use of the auditing machine, which is supposedly like a little lie detector device, right? But she was his girlfriend for 6 years. And the church would tell her when she did finally speak up about this, because the culture around this within the church in general, if things happen to you, here's kind of their principle. It's the law of attraction. So if you have terrible things happen to you, according to the church, there's something about you. Okay. There's something within you that is attracting those kind of things. You can imagine how harmful that is anyway. But now imagine Danny grew up in the Church of Scientology, was at the height of his fame. And it's very kind of known. I mean, people think of Church of Scientology, think of the Celebrity Center, and they do think of people like Tom Cruise or even Leah Remini, people that have left, right? But there's very high profile Scientologists that are celebrities. And that's because that's actually by design. That's part of what Ron Hubbard wrote in to all his little regulations and all these different things that they go by as being sort of the mechanism that attracts other people to the organization. So they're treated kind of with kid gloves and as sort of this special status. So they already have sort of this predisposition to and kind of bias built in to their, I'm going to call it theology, just for lack of a better word, into their theology, that if bad things are happening to you, it's because of you. And that includes if you're a victim of a crime. That includes if some, scumbucket, forces himself on you or drugs you and does the same. So when she talked about it, there was evidence all over that she did bring it to people. There was record of Prissy speaking to people in the church about it. And what she was told over and over and over again, which is the takeaway on her, because she's the only one who did not get her justice this week. What she was told is that you're in a relationship, and that relationship equals consent. That's what the church taught her. It can't be our word if you live together and you're his girlfriend. And when you think about that, her stories include things like being drugged to unconsciousness. So that doesn't really even match the law, right? Oh God, here we go. Sorry guys, dealing with the troll. We'll be doing that for a little while, remembering this is an inherited okay. Mods, just keep an eye out. So honestly, my thoughts and prayers are with her, because after being sort of indoctrinated that way, by virtue of being a longtime Scientologist, it's sort of unfortunate that in the end, but keep in mind that it was 8-4. So, I mean, it was very close. The state of California can still take back her case if they choose to. I don't know if they're going to do that, to be very honest with you. I'm not sure that they're going to do that because of their one strike rule. In California, if you have more than one R-word conviction, okay, or victim, if you have forced yourself upon more than one person and you're convicted, it becomes a mandatory sentencing of 15 years to life for each victim, for each occurrence, each charge. So he's already looking at a minimum, you guys, of 30 years because he was convicted for the first two. So he's done. They asked for bail. He's been out. But that was like a resounding no. There's another hearing that is going to happen on the 4th of August, where they're again going to kind of litigate this idea of him being able to be out during his appeal, because they're going to appeal. Again, he's got like the best in the biz, okay? There's just no getting around it. Doesn't matter what you think of Michael Jackson. Doesn't matter what you think of any of Tom Mesereau's prior clients. Tom Mesereau is a great lawyer. Great lawyer. So they're, of course, appealing. They're going to appeal. There's no getting around that. So they're wanting him out during that. I don't think it's likely. I don't think that's going to happen. So the 4th of August, we'll know for sure. But he was put in cuffs, like immediately. He had sauntered into that courtroom day after day after day, stood in the hallways every day since, because I think there was probably, if you're an avid trial watcher, you know that the longer a jury's out, the more the state gets nervous and the higher the chances that they're either, especially when you're on your second trial, right? He already got a hung jury the first time. So I know there was concern about that. There had to be, but there was almost like a cockiness to him, right? As I'm kind of looking through photos of the, even the Scientologists, right? There's a group, a little like 10 high-ranking Scientologists that would be there. every single day for these proceedings. They were in the first one and they were there again for the second one. His wife is Bijou Phillips. She left the courtroom alone, right? But there's the picture of them going in. I mean, you can just see this was like every other day. Reports from inside of the courtroom is that he was chatty, even while he's waiting for the verdict in the hallways for days and days. They were out for over a week, and that included a holiday weekend, which usually we've seen it actually recently in very high profile cases. It's like some where we're going, okay, it's going to be a little bit longer. Things like the Murdaugh trial, right? It's like, generally speaking, gets a little more amped up when there's a holiday coming up or a Friday. Usually they're more inclined to try to reach their decision. This jury didn't do that. They definitely took their time, including having to come back after a holiday weekend. But reports from inside the courtroom were that definitely he was shocked. His people were shocked. His family was shocked. His wife had to be admonished by the judge because she began like hysterically breaking down, and she had to be told she needed to collect herself or she was going to be asked to leave. So they weren't expecting it. It's very unexpected. And there wasn't as much coverage either as I thought there were. The kind of common sources, if you're into the law tubes around here. But I was surprised how little, because this is kind of a big deal. And then remembering there is a pending civil case. And here's the difference, you guys. This is why this is going to be a great series, right? Because we can just go with this as long as people care about it. Scientology is a named party in the civil suit. So they just got the 2 convictions, which means, and geez, they know exactly where to find Danny now for the next 30 years. They can move forward now. This civil case has just been sitting on a back burner for 3 years. And now there is nothing, constitutionally speaking, that can keep anybody from having to do what they need to do. He will have to speak. He does not have the right to be silent anymore because he no longer has that criminal charge pending. Another reason why it's up in the air and why it would not surprise me if the state elected not to go forward with retrying Chrissy's case. But that's controversial. And I think, hopefully, this is my hope, right? My hope is that they're going to consult with her and at least get her input. Okay. She's been through a horrible amount, and I don't want to dig too deep into that now, but believe me, we will. The things and the tactics that have been done by Scientology are part of the heart of what their role in the civil litigation is about. They're known for slander. They're known for following people. They're known for stalking people, stalking their families. It's crazy. They don't take kindly. Yeah, Adriana, it's crazy, right? Like, that people don't leave easily. That's so true. So there's all kinds of great channels. I'll put together a list, you guys, and do a community post. And then I usually, like when I was doing this over on my other channel, I would make playlists to go with these. I might do that just because this one's unique and it's not just current. There's a whole other trial that happened. And there's been a ton of interviews and things like that with ex-Scientologists that kind of put perspective around their general inside practices that could lead to something like this. To Michelle or John? I'm not sure, actually. Hold on. Let's Google it. I want to say it has. Why am I'm just going, I'm like, it has to be Michelle, right? I don't know. I actually do not know. It doesn't say either in her Wikipedia. yeah, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much. If anybody knows, let Memphis Mama know, because I don't know. So sadly, when I think of John Phillips, I think of, Mackenzie's stories and things like that. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, but that's my inclination, and I have no information to back that up other than my hunch. So I don't know. I'm going to put the link in chat. Anybody's welcome to come up if you want to do your input or anything like that, or you can put it in chat and I'll read through chat. But do you think that they should retry for Chrissy? It was 8-4. Okay. 8-4. There's no information yet because jury members haven't spoke out yet. And some of that could be because the state reserves the right to make their decision, So we don't know yet what they're going to do. But 8-4, I mean, that's 2/3. 2/3 of that jury was ready to convict him on the third one, too. Tevi, Memphis Mama, hold on. Did I already lose the comment? Yeah, that's just the whole other thing. Their medical care, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they have some policies that are weird as fuck and not great. Yeah, that was the question. Thank you for putting it back in there, Mums. That was the question, Tabby. I don't know if you know. I went to the Wikipedia page, but I'm like, I'm not seeing it. And like I said, my inclination to answer is biased because I read Mackenzie Phillips' book and it had all kinds of things to say about her dad. And so I'm like, seems like Bijou's a little more adjusted, but I don't know. Let me see. I'm just looking through here. It doesn't say. Anyway. When I used to communicate with Chrissy, my family would tell me they were, yeah. Well, here, I got to tell you, so you guys want a quick little Scientology story, right? So when the Aftermath first came out, right? So, of course, then I might have already been following Leah Remini on Twitter. I don't know. But that's when I started following Mark Rinder and, some of the people that would appear on the show. I made a comment on a Twitter once. Now, I didn't get any weird reply or anything, but check this out. Okay, so I am 40. What am I going to be this year? 43, I guess. Okay, so early 40s. When I was 18, and literally, I know it was shortly after I turned 18, the Seattle Scientology Center opened, and there was they sent out their quiz, right? Their little self-assessment quiz. So everybody, it seems like it was just like spam in our mailbox, right? And I had filled it out and mailed it back in. That was when I was 18 years old. I have been married. I've moved more times than I can ever fucking count, right? I'm out in New Jersey now. And here we are, like, all this time later, okay? 25 years. And suddenly, after I had done this, like, Twitter interaction with Mike Rinder, all of a sudden I start getting mailings from the Seattle Church of Scientology, okay? Never, ever had I gotten that. I got them, of course, back then, like, when I was 18. I was still, like, I think I was still living at home even. I was, like, finishing up my last year of high school or whatever. And it's like, out of nowhere, this shit, like, they scare me. I totally get where your mom's coming from. I was like, no. Your family might have been scared for a reason, because tell me that ain't fucking weird. I'm like, that skip trace had to go all over the place. I've had a married name since then. I've moved, I don't know how many times, but it's like, it's bananas. Bananas. They're scary. They're scary. There's no question. Yeah. Her book was just so sad. That was one of those ones that haunts you after you read it. I mean, it's a great book. It's a great book. She's a strong woman, but it's like that's one of the ones that just haunts you. Mackenzie Phillips' book. I recommend it if you haven't read it. Yeah. There was so much. Well, she leave it to me to pull everything back to reality TV, right? So she did oh god, the Dr. Drew one, Celebrity Rehab. So for me, I was like, her stories in the book, she's had a lot of years that she brings these things up, and it stayed very consistent. And they are very traumatic. And I'm just sort of like, I'm with you on that. Like, why? I do believe her. I do as well. Kenny. There's my dog. Most people here know Kenny. We will have animal interruptions. There's no way to get around it, no matter how professional I try to be here. She and Lisa both left. Did Kirstie Alley leave before she passed? I wasn't sure about that. Someone in my chat over on my main channel was saying that Tom Cruise left. I can't find anything that says that, so I don't know. Yeah, I totally am with you on that. Absolutely, Adrian. That kind of research. Seriously? Well, I mean, but they just use it to terrorize people. Like I said, that's why I'm like, yeah, I got to be very careful on this sort of overview thing, because I want just to put the, kind of what happened this week. Now, we've done that, but we could just go down the Scientology rabbit hole forever and ever. They do some gross stuff. Okay. Some of the stuff I do follow a lot of the people. So if you watch the Aftermath when it was on, a lot of those people have gone on to make YouTube channels, and they're fascinating, right? They're a wealth of information, and I haven't had a chance yet to watch through all of their sort of reactions and stuff. But I went to Twitter to see, what Leah Remini, Mike Rinder, all of them had to say, but they're character limited and things. So they do some of the just underhanded things that could be an issue. We're dealing with a civil case now, and that's part of what is being alleged, is that they suppressed them from seeking justice, stalking, harassment, intimidation, since in trying to, I don't want to say defend, but you know what I mean? Shield Danny. And some of their stories there are just ugh. And let's hope that civil trial, let's hope they allow some coverage there. Because it makes me think of the OJ case, you guys, right? It's like, now that was televised the shit out of, but what footage was amazing is when they finally released the Goldman civil litigation deposition tapes. Because, he didn't have to testify at his own trial. Not the criminal one. And so even though they didn't have cameras and things that were like in the courtroom, those depositions are gold. And I would love to see Danny Masterson's when that time comes. I'm excited for it because I think that's going to tell the tale. I see a lot of public reactions that were still surprised, and I don't know why that is. When you have 5 accusers, and people forget that this started with 5 accusers, all from within the church. Take the Scientology out of it. That is not an absurd thing. What have we seen with the Catholic Church? What have we seen with all these kind of closed down organizations that have these very, hierarchical rules? I just don't think that it's a long shot. And their stories match too much. They did not know each other. Some of them didn't even like each other because he had cheated and things like that, you know, but many of them didn't even know of one another, had never spoken to each other, and yet they have these similar stories. Yeah. It's one of those books that just stays with you, you know? No, I read you guys, my vision is so, and I hate wearing like my reading glasses, and I really should, especially when I'm at my computer. So I've made my screen bigger. And even that's just not working anymore. And heaven forbid I'm on my phone. I love to chat. It's like the thing that I like least actually about being up here running a show is that I don't get to chat and interact in the chat as much. But it's like my misspellings lately are epic, and it's really not me misspelling or autocorrect. It's like I can't see what I've typed, so I'm just doing it, and then I don't proofread anymore. Okay, yeah, I didn't think so. I can't. So do you remember that though, Rose? So on Friday, someone in the chat was saying that. I'm like, did he? I feel like that'd be major news, right? Like, especially in the same week as Masterson's verdict. I'm like, I feel like we would have heard about that. I said to Aaron Levin Smith too, love his show. Love his show. Isn't that crazy? And then all the buildings and stuff that they have. Isn't that nuts? 30,000 worldwide. I mean, it's like, yeah, that's crazy. Crazy, crazy. Hey, Allie. Yeah, I feel like that would be such major news. We would hear if he ever left. Oh, thank you, Allie. It's sweet of you. Keep my eye out. The way solid. Oh, yes. And the way they handle people with mental health crises has killed people. But yeah. Oh, Jason. Well, I'm very interested in that kind of stuff. And it's like, just so you guys know, I mean, that's where it comes down to again, where it's like, yeah, okay, so let's just lock you in a room, have you drink all kinds of ridiculous stuff, overdose on like herbs and supplements, pretty much, sweat it out. It's physically dangerous. Never mind like the emotional part they must be going through, but it's there's so many things, you guys. Their perspective on medical care, all of it, you know, because you can heal your own body, don't you know? You can transcend life. I mean, if only you follow the exact rules of Scientology close enough, you know. Too bad the rules of Scientology, you know, it's like if some of the Sea Org stuff that they used to talk about, it's like they have a policy on how to wash windows, you know, how many squirts per whatever, and you don't use paper towels, you use newspaper. I mean, it's weird. That's just my opinion. It's weird. But I'm telling you, it's to the point I'm like, yeah, if I hear someone's a Scientologist, I'm kind of scared. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want to, you know, not interested. Right about the time that 25 plus years later, I exchange a Twitter on Mike Rinder's, like, you know, public viewed Twitter account, and suddenly 3 weeks later, I have a fucking like flyer from the Church of Scientology in Seattle that I have not heard from in 18 years, period. And all I ever did is fill out some fucking questionnaire form and mail it back. Crazy. That shit's nuts. That's more than just like a skip trace, you guys. But more importantly, why would you skip trace someone from Twitter? It's fucking weird. It's weird shit. I follow Leah on here too. I think I'm on all her socials though. I just like her and Jess. She's like a New Jersey girl. She is. She's a Jersey girl too. So I've always liked her. I liked her when she, you know, even when she was a Scientologist. Yes. Yes. Like, yes. It's so dangerous, you guys. They're just like, yes, way more than, you know, the body's meant to even process. And they think they can just sweat it out. It's bananas. I can't remember who I just read about that almost joined them. Oh, I'm glad they didn't. Oh, I'm really glad they didn't. Yeah, I consider them a cult. And because it's a legal program, I'm going to refer to them as a religion because they do have they have the status. They are viewed as a religion under our laws. And that's more than just, so the IRS, that's a whole other show. In fact, I'm going to write that down. That's a whole other show topic, by the way. The IRS decides that. Isn't that messed up? So that's for their tax purposes and all of that. But that is the argument that allows them, they are blanket treated like a religion. Think about that. It's a fine line, right? Between cults and religions. We all could get together here and be like, hey, we're the, fill in the blank religion, right? What's the line? And the line is not perfectly clear in our laws. They are black and white for the IRS, but what's ended up happening is that for organizations, it ends up being blurry enough to where the IRS, with their black and white view on it, ends up being the deciding factor for if these groups are treated as churches or not. And we could go down a whole rabbit hole with that and look at the People's Temple and stuff, because that's a great example of someone that started out as a church and morphed into something else. And yet the part of it that's never really talked about much is that here in the United States, even as everything happened, they never lost their religious status. They were never viewed as a cult, not until things happened. That could be what it is. I don't know. I feel like I'm just slow to acknowledge that I have to wear the reading glasses. You know what I mean? I'll get there. The more I get teased, or what's really bad is when I see my stuff pinned. If I do a comment and people pin it, I'm like, oh, God, it's the worst typo ever. I love Audible. Love, love, love Audible. I do that when I'm just cleaning and doing normal stuff. All right, I'm super behind you guys, so I'm sorry if I miss your comment. I'm gonna scrooge through here. The dollar amounts that some of these people have thrown out, I'm like, holy crap. And they don't have to pay taxes on it. They don't pay taxes. They'll turn around and reinvest it in things like, buildings and things like that. But that's why they have all this money. And then they turn around and use the money to hire private investigators to stalk and harass people that are merely victims of crimes in order to protect the celebrities there, or to torment people who dare walk away. It is beyond my ability to explain. And far greater people than us, with way more resources, have tried to get their tax exempt status looked at, have tried to do something about this, and find themselves so frustrated. And that's the kind of thing that's why they've lived through it. You know what I mean? They are smear campaigned day in, day out, just gross things. And that's what the money goes for. And there's actually a law against that. You go, that's crazy. I don't want to get down that rabbit hole. But just to let you know, there's a law against it. There is a law against. So obviously, harassment and things like that. Those are crimes anyway. But within the tax code is specifications that absolutely say certain activities with the money are prohibited in order to keep your tax exempt status, and they break it all the time, and yet nothing can be done. That's good to know, Tabby. Yeah. See, there's kind of conversation I miss, because I'm like, yeah, and I'm not, immune to them, but we don't do a lot anymore that talks about it here where we can kind of share it. Crafton gets into it, but his are kind of obscure sometimes, Wondering why Diane, the youngest female, is really good. Yeah, I've learned a little more about the Jehovah's Witnesses lately. And what's sad is that it seems like it's you know, it's sexual violence and, you know, our situations, including against children, going, that seems to be prevalent there too. I don't know. If I understand with Jehovah's Witnesses, though, it's like there's some rule about having to have, but it's the same structure, isn't it? Where they have to go to internal people first. I mean, it's just a problem. So it's interesting to see some of those kind of religious concepts start to interface with the legal system, because our legal system can be so black and white with things like this. And so actively suppressing people from reporting crimes, interfering, defrauding them. That was another thing that came up. There were people that said, hey, I went, you know, in this case against Danny, it was like some of the testimony went down the road of being assured that they would report it, leading them to believe that it had, and there's just nothing, you know, nothing's going to be done kind of thing. It's crazy. Mm-mm. Oh, it's terrible. Terrible, terrible. Oh, I don't know what you guys are talking about. You guys are on something else I don't know about. Chaos. Chaos. I don't know. I can't figure you ladies out. So anyway, so he, you know, the when they denied his bail, so when Judge Amato denied his bail, pretty clear and focused reasoning was about his flight risk, which isn't going to change, right? Like, he's a rich guy in a family of rich people and in a rich organization that operates worldwide and has members worldwide. That was stressed. He's a flight risk. I think the odds of him being let out pending his appeal are slim to none. So there's my forecast. We'll know on August 4th. I would say I wouldn't bank on it. Cults really are terrible. And this is like an example of the crap that happens, you know? Hey, Without Borders. All right, guys. I'm going to throw the link in there one more time. Give everybody a... Tebby, no. I have ADD as well. Like, clinically. I talk about it sometimes. Clinically have ADD. So it's very easy for me to get there too. That's why I have, like, so you can hear my little notes back here. So that if I lose my place, when you hear me stop, and it's because I'm looking to find what bullet point I landed on to jog my memory back. So throughout the week, I haven't decided if I'm going to pre-record or if I'll just hit live, but I'm going to start to go live on some of these other things, because there, as much as there's not a ton of information, there's enough. The first trial had its own kind of set of coverage. Like I said, the second one, they let in more of the Scientology stuff, and now the civil case is going. So really, this was great, because I'm like, I know I was going to relaunch over here in June, because we're building watch hours, you guys. So when you take a channel over from somebody else and do all of that properly through YouTube, you know, the subs stay, but they do have the new creator start afresh in terms of watch time and monetization and all that. So I kind of had to think through how I was going to do this. And I'm like, okay, but this happening this week is amazing, because it's actually 3 cases all in one, plus the Scientology aspect of it. And again, they are a party in the civil case, which means that it will be heavily factored. So this will be one that I'll just be able to put out content, hit live, we can have discussions, and really kind of hone in on some of the issues. And I anticipate Scientology will be a large part of that. And of course, you guys have input in that too. I shared an office with the Jehovah's Witnesses for 15 years. Everyone's trying to... Oh, I don't know. Yeah. You guys, cults are like really the psychological damage and the chains, the invisible chains are incredible. You know what I mean? And it's very sad. It takes so much courage to get out, and it takes years to heal, you know? That is a whole other stream, but I will tell you that I agree with you, Jason. Like, no offense to those out there, but I agree with that. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate you being here. So we're just getting started with everything, and I will go live. And if you're here, so make sure your notifications are on. But at least, especially in the beginning, I'll be posting over on the Life in the Red Kim community tab too, and I'll try to sort of keep everybody abreast. I don't have a schedule or anything like that, all like worked out here. So once we're kind of, but you can always count on Saturdays, but I will be live at some point throughout the week. Because I do want to dig into this. I've done a lot of research on it. I just wanted to stick to the overview today and see where the interest, I feel like the interest is lying mostly in the Scientology aspect of it, but let me know in chat if I'm wrong. I don't know if it was that personal. That could, I mean, it's like, maybe. So if a Jehovah's Witness doesn't witness to you, maybe she's like, I don't know if I even want you in the afterlife. Maybe she wasn't very enthusiastic about being a Jehovah's Witness, though, too. That could be. Oh my God. I adore you, Susie. All right, guys. On that note, I am going to get going. We're almost in an hour here. Please do me a grand favor and hit the like button. Super helpful. I got to get in the algorithm. Not too many people cared about Kevin Costner, but those that know me know I couldn't not make the first video over here about him getting divorced because that was exciting. I love trolls. Yeah. They follow me everywhere. They follow CJ everywhere. We're used to it. All right, guys. Have a good day. Have a good Saturday. I will be live over on my other channel a little bit later tonight. I'm actually doing a reaction video to a reaction video. We're talking about fraudulent life coaches tonight. So make sure your bell's on over there too. All right, guys. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll see you around the streets.